As the political parties get ready for their primaries ahead of the 2023 general elections, the general sentiment in the country seemed to increasingly favor the emergence of a president of Igbo extraction. This is mounting intense pressure on the political class to concede power to the Igbo prominent socio-political groups from different parts of the country, including Afenifere Renewal Group, ARG, Pan-Nigeria Delta Forum, PANDEF, and the Middle Belt Forum, MBF, yesterday insisted that Igbos must produce the president of Nigeria in 2023 for equity, justice, and fairness. The groups maintain that if the political class and the retired military generals could concede the presidency to the Yorubas in 1999, the same approach could be adopted to microzone power to the Igbos. They described the Yoruba presidential ambition as awkward. The group spoke in Abuja at the Greater Nigeria Conference, organized by leaders and friends of the Southeast geopolitical zone, with the theme, "Together we can," end of quote. Leaders of the different groups condemned what they call the doomed 2023 presidential desire by former President Goodluck Jonathan, saying he would merely be presenting himself for shame. So no, I have to break down a lot this morning.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a novel call, but it's so far gone unheeded. What has actually happened is that even more aspirants from outside of the Southeast zone have come out to express their interests. But one thing I have to challenge this morning is this rewriting of history, this notion that in 1999 the presidency was zoned to the Southwest. No, it was not. It absolutely was not. The AD and APP alliance at that time, who emerged in their primaries, was Obonaya Onu, and he decided to step down for Olufalaye. That was an AD-APP situation. PDP went on to zone to the south. It was never microzoned to the southwest. And we can see from the primaries, the 1998 primaries in Jos, who was contesting? President Olusegun Obasanjo, who eventually won, obviously. There was Daniel Tiebet, is from the Southwest. The great Chief Alabo Graham Douglas, who we lost yesterday. I don't want to talk too much about that. May his soul rest in perfect peace. That's a personal loss for me. He was also contesting in those primaries, as well Alex Ekweme. So it was a southern zoning, was not microzoned at all. The fact that President Olusegun Obasanjo emerged was not to appeal to the Southwest. It was representing an entirely different constituency. His military cronies, they wanted one of their own men there. So I really do reject that. However, the general rationale is one that is difficult to argue with. If we're truly interested as a country in fairness, if we're truly interested in justice and equity, then really what convincing argument can be made now against a Southeast presidency? This is really my issue. I'm waiting to really be convinced, and I've listened to the other arguments about it, talking about meritocracy. The caliber of the aspirants that we have that have emerged from the Southeast can't stand toe-to-toe with anybody else if we're talking about meritocracy. So it's really not about trying to foist anybody from the Southeast just for some kind of sentiment on anybody else, no. But because we all want a country, I should hope we all want a country where we all have a stake, where it's not that Orwellian nightmare of some animals being more equal than others. This argument makes perfect sense to me. However, same as we saw in 1999 with the elections that I just referred to, there's some who have their own personal ambitions and cannot be convinced to step down for an idea even as lofty as that of wanting a unified Nigeria. They want to pursue their ambition to the end, and that I find is the rub here. If only everybody would be a little less self-centered and think of the collective, but alas, that's not what we find.
Okay, Tundu, maybe we should backtrack a little bit, because one of the major issues that came out of that Greater Nigeria Conference that was organized yesterday by the Afenifere Renewal Group, the Middle Belt Forum, the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, and with all their leaders in attendance. Chief Ayo Adebanjo, Papa Edwin Clark, and also Dr. Pogus Bitrus, representing the Middle Belt Forum. And their theme was Together We Can. What is this Together We Can all about? Their point is that together we can change the course of Nigeria. Together we can ensure equity, fairness, and justice in Nigeria. ahead of the 2023 elections and ensure that the 2023 general elections will be about equity, fairness, and justice, particularly at the presidential level. And they resolved that in their own reckoning, the best thing to do is to zone, microzone, to use a popular phrase in the subject, the presidency of Nigeria to the southeast. Now, the key example that they cited was the 1998-1999 process. And they argued that in 1999, there was microzoning to make sure that whoever will be president of Nigeria will come from the southwest. Osita Chidoka, former minister, also repeated that point yesterday when he was on this same program. And the argument is simply that given the debacle of the 1993 presidential election, it was concluded that Nigerians, the only way to go forward was to pacify the Southwest. And it was because of that all those persons you mentioned that stepped down did so, because there will be backroom negotiations and all of that. Let the Yorubas have it. And it was not even just about the Yorubas having it. They narrowed it down to an Egbaman, a kinsman of the undeclared winner of the presidential election of 1993, to be the one who will be there. Now, you may argue with the choice of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, but what these leaders of these regions are saying is that that was an attempt to correct the injustice that was done, not just to the Yoruba people, but also to the Southwest in general, but also to the people of Egbaland. Hence, Obasanjo emerged. Now, the people of Yoruba land may not have voted for him, they may not have agreed with that consensus, but that was the reality of the time. And I was privileged to have been one of the frontline documentarists of that process. I wrote volumes of essays during that period. Okay, so the question now is, these people are beginning to talk about an emerging consensus. Yesterday, one of the things we discussed was a consensus around the issue of an Igbo presidency. And Osita Chidoka was saying it is possible because we did it in 1998, 1999. Would that consensus emerge? Is it enough for Pa Ayo-Adebanjo, for example, to say, look, Wike and Amechi are trying to show interest in the matter, should just go and sit down because they are being used to divide the Nigerians. Chief Edwin Clark, 95 years old statesman, said, look, Nigeria used to be on a tripod that was well negotiated. Now Nigeria is standing on 36 legs. If up to 5 of those 36 legs should collapse, Nigeria would be in peril. Okay? Pogus Boutros, doctor, who spoke for the Middle Belt Forum, also referred to this 1999-1998 situation. And he said it is only fair that Igbos should come together. That Igbos should be given a chance. Pa Adebanjo, however, added a caveat. He said that Igbos should unite. Because if they don't unite, then there's no way the rest of Nigeria can stand behind them. What I see in this is that there is an emerging North-South divide with regard to the 2023 presidential race. As it's instructive that the Northern Elders Forum is saying, more or less, body language, written statements, declarations, that the next president of Nigeria should come from the North. And the question that was raised at that Greater Nigeria Together We Can conference yesterday was that, look, if you are going to take the next Nigerian president from the North, after 8 years of Buhari, after about 3 years of Yaradua, then how about the people of the Southeast who have not been part of it in the last 23 years at the highest level possible? So these were the questions raised at that conference, and they are valid questions. However, that same yesterday, political leaders of the northern states, 19 northern states, also met on the platform of the PDP, and they were saying that the presidency of Nigeria for 2023 should be an open field. It should be left open. The main argument that was canvassed at that counter, I'll use the word counter adversely, was that, look, Nigeria belongs to everybody, and that any Nigerian is free to contest for the presidency in 2023. And in the other yard, they were saying, no, it's not like that. These Northerners, they are too greedy. They should know that Nigeria belongs to everybody. So we are heading towards a 2023 presidential election that is likely to divide the country further, that is likely to be far more centrifugal than any other election that we have had in this country since the 1922 legislative election under the Clifford Constitution, which was the first democratic election ever held in Nigeria. So this is where we are. The country is divided, and I hope that there will be voices of reason. There will be enough people with common sense who can provide the leadership and see how that can be done. However, we run a country where our democracy is emerging to be democracy by negotiation. In 1999, we said Nigerian democracy was putative. It was a common phrase at the time. It became a cliche. It is sad that 23 years later, we can still be speaking of Nigerian democracy in a putative manner, whereby people are hiding under ethnic umbrellas and making statements that cannot move the country forward. But I hope there will be enough men and women of reason who can take Nigeria out of this dangerous trip to nowhere.
So for me, the 2023 elections is just a replica of what happened in the 59 elections. My memory serves me right, 12th of December 1959, we had the first, parliamentary elections leading up to independence. We had the Northern People's Congress, we had an NCNC, we had an action group. And when you look at the vote divide, it was split down ethnic lines. Nnamdi Azikiwe had the most votes, with over 2 million votes in that election. Next was the MPC, which took most parts of the North, and then the action group. Then the action group, all automatically, then the British said, form a government, because it was a hung parliament. So form a government with the MPC. Nnamdi Azikiwe, as the winner, had the prerogative to form a government with the MPC. The action group was left in opposition. At that point in time, the framers of our Constitution remembered and they saw that we are best as a federalist state. And that's why we had regions. And all of that is coming to bear now. The center was not as powerful as it is today. The reason why all this jostling is rife goes back to 79, when we presented this constitutional presidential system. But it's just a presidential system in name, because the presidential system in some other parts of the world, the America we copy from, run a federalist system that the states are powerful. You don't really need the center. But today, everybody needs the center. Some regions have had their share. The pacification of the Yoruba is, like some people will say, 1999 emerged. But there's also going to be a counter-argument. And I see your point, Tundu. Because most of the Yoruba states didn't support Olusegun Obasanjo. In fact, he lost woefully. All of them were the part of Olufalaye.
He wasn't the Yoruba
so
candidate.
Could it be the case of, he was the Kaduna Mafia candidate?
Well,
Did everybody buy into it? But the general norm in the argument is, yes, everybody supported that alliance because, they needed to pacify Yoruba people. Because, what the Igbos are shouting for today, the Yorubas too were there. That was the days of Oduduwa Nation, Gani Adams and the likes. But some other people too will argue that we have done this before. That to pacify the Igbo nation after the civil war that ended in 70, 9 years after, in 79, we had 2 Igbo vice presidential candidates. At least, albeit the Unity Party of Nigeria and the, the Shagaris Party put forward Alex Ekweme as vice presidential candidate. Obafemi put forward Philip Umedi as vice presidential candidate. In the end, just 7 years after the war, to pacify Igbos, and Alex Ekweme emerged as vice president of this country. Question is, in the spirit of fairness and balance, we have done it in 79, can we do it again? Because you see, I also understand the fears of the North. The fears of the North are akin to the same fears the North had in the 60s in this country. In 66, we all remember that incident. We all remember the incident, that brought about, after the coup, that brought about, what's his name? Aguiyi Ironsi. And the North felt they were left behind. But you see, for us to build a stronger union, I know we have differences, but we must all agree on some things. What can we agree on? We must all agree as it is now that the Igbos feel cheated and left behind. We must all agree, for the sake of integration and the strength of our union, that power too should go to a place that has not tested power, if we want to be fair in this country.
Right. Thank you, Rufai.
Yeah.
The Court of Appeal in Port Harcourt has struck out an appeal filed by Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, challenging the judgment of the Federal High Court, which awarded the sum of 5.5 billion naira to 2 Ogoni citizens for the pollution of their farmlands by oil spills in 2000. Correspondent Ovieteme George has details.
These are people from Bidere in Gokana local government area of Rivers State. They have come to the Court of Appeal in Port Harcourt to give support to their kinsmen. It is Judgment Day in an oil pollution case involving Shell Petroleum Development Company. Justice Olabode Adegbengbe, however, struck out the appeal of the oil giants in a case which began in 2005, first at the Federal High Court, Port Harcourt, and later the Uyo Division, Akwa Ibom State, due to the transfer of the trial judge. In 2009, the sum of 5.5 billion naira was awarded against the SPDC for the pollution of designated family farmlands in Ogoniland in 2000. The SPDC approached the Supreme Court after its appeal was thrown out by the Appeal Court, and later the Apex Court ordered that the case should be sent back to the Appeal Court, which eventually heard the matter in February 2022 before Justice Olabode Adegbengbe's judgment, striking out the appeal for lack of competence, and sustained the judgment of the Federal High Court, ordering the company to pay the sum of 5.5 billion naira as damages to the plaintiffs. The counsel to the SPDC, Iboneku Valentine, politely declined to comment on the judgment, but counsel to the Ogoni families was willing.
For 22 years, over 27 hectares of land polluted. That is the source, that was the source or main source of livelihood of the people. And they've been suffering up till today, 22 years after. And that is why we have decided to represent them. And I think finally we have judgment in favor of the Sakpa family.
Federal High Court awarded the family, Sakpa family, 5.5 billion. And also award 2.5 million as costs. And the money has not been paid to us, despite the fact that there is a garnishee order against them. And for today, since they have lost the appeal, I think we will start to pursue the garnishee order to get the money back to the family.
For the people of Bidere, it is a long walk to justice, sparking jubilation in the court premises. Judgment has been delivered in favor of the Ogoni 2, 22 years after the land was polluted. Now, whether this case is going to the wire at the Supreme Court is of little significance to these people who want their celebration to echo in the hinterlands of Ogoni land. Ofieteme George, Arise News.
22 long years. Your thoughts, Rufai?
I mean, Tundu, when I see cases like this and judgment being delivered, I say yes, because of what is done environmentally, the damage being done environmentally, and what the Ogoni people suffered. Let's not forget that it is still in this struggle that the likes of Ken Saro-Wiwa lost his life in '95. And till date, nothing has been done for the Ogoni people. We all know about the Ogoni cleanup, how much have we cleaned up in Ogoni land? Everything is just audio. In local parlance, mean it's not true because nothing is happening. I think until the full restoration is done for the livelihoods of the Ogoni people, nothing, and I repeat, nothing will be done. And a case like this just makes me pay special tribute to Lord Shosun SAN of blessed memories. You know, he's a SAN, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, that always takes up these environmental cases, and he's won so many, and he's pushed them. And he's become a lawyer that is also an activist for the rights of the people, because everybody leaves them behind. Look at even the government leaves these people behind. And it is in their area that the wealth and the sovereignty of this country is upheld through funds generation, through crude oil sale. But these people are left behind. Nothing is done for them. So another congratulations, but I know the oil majors will go up to the Supreme Court, and also payments another one. And there are still many cases on ground. We're going to have many. I mean, the oil spill one in the Nembe Creek is another one coming up. So we'll have many cases. It's an ongoing thing.
Dr. Abati.
Okay, Shell started operating in Ogoni in 1958. One of the original, spots where oil was discovered and, operation started. And as at 1992, Shell, Petroleum Development Company, was operating about 96 oil wells in Ogoni land, or to about 3% of its total production in Nigeria. But by 1990, Ken Saro-Wiwa and others, Ken Saro-Wiwa in particular, created this environmental rights group called Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People. And they began, under the umbrella of MOSOP, to protest about injustice, about how the people have been deprived, about how the environment had been devastated. And they proceeded to file 2 lawsuits. One, the people of Ogoni land wanted royalties up to the tune of $6 billion. Then for damages to their environment, there was also another case of about $4 billion. Now in 1993, Shell was given an ultimatum to leave Ogoni land and stop production. Shell left Ogoni land in 1993 because of the agitation, the violence, the restiveness within the community. And Shell has not returned there since then. So there have been cases in court. Now, this is not the first time that the people of Ogoni land will win in court. They got judgment from the international community, international court. Lives have been lost. Ogoni and the 8 others who were killed in 1995 by the Nigerian state. They were murdered by the Nigerian state, and Nigeria has not even recovered from that. Kobani and others who were also killed by the people. The Ogoni land has not known real peace since then. So in 2015, an Abuja High Court ruled against Shell. Shell agreed at the time to pay a compensation of about $110 million. The problem with our communities has been how to share the money. I don't know how they share that $110 million, or whether Ogoni Shell paid or not, and all that. But I think Shell agreed to pay. But it even created further divisions within the community. This particular case that is under reference is a case brought up by 2 persons to say, look, we have suffered environmental degradation, and they've won. Maybe Shell will go on appeal. They went on appeal. Court of Appeal has affirmed the ruling of the Federal High Court in Abuja. So we shall pay, or we shall go further to the Supreme Court. But what we see in all of this is the cost of oil. What is it they call it again? The Dutch disease? Yeah. Our oil, a vital resource that is supposed to bring blessing to the people, has brought them agony. And we have seen that in the Ogoni Bill of Rights of 1992 and in the Kayama Declaration, of the Bayelsa people within the same period. But, all of this accentuates, in my view, the issue about injustice in Nigeria. The people that provide the golden egg, they are the ones that suffer. They are the ones that are not good enough to be president. They are the ones that are not good enough to enjoy infrastructure from Nigeria. So you have a country that is built, on a tradition of injustice and unfairness. And you can tie this, even tie this to all the contradictions in the country. Even in the South, the Ogoni people are looked down upon. And yet they were the original providers of this oil money that everybody is enjoying. You may see it as, we may say, yes, it's victory that they've won at the courts, but many of these cases that the Ogoni people win, create even further problems within the environment. And that's why some people are saying, look, maybe this oil, we should just close all the oil wells and see how Nigeria can survive without oil. But what would that, when would that come? When would that happen? Nigeria without oil in the future, perhaps.
All right, that's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we have Rotus, we have Michael, we have Adeso, we have Aaron. Here to give us updates on Africa, global business, COVID-19 and sporting activities across the globe. Stay with us.
Our dependable Rotus Adiri is here to give us an African business update. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Tunde. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning to all our viewers. Well, today is World Intellectual Property Day, and our very own Sheiton Atigari sent in this report. Look at that. Youth innovating for a better future. We've got intellectual property matters here in Africa's largest economy and around the continent. And so Sheiton sent this report. Sheiton Atigari, let's take a look.
Annually, the 26th of April is set aside to celebrate World Intellectual Property Day. To mark this event, the U.S. mission, in collaboration with the American Business Council, is hosting the second edition of its IP symposium tagged Intellectual Property and Youth Innovating for a Better Future.
These will be protected under copyright law.
The two-day symposium, which started yesterday, brought together key stakeholders in Nigeria's IPR protection framework and kicked off with remarks from the U.S. Ambassador, Mary Beth Leonard, who noted the protection of intellectual rights is critical for any economy that wants to foster a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship.
A strong system of IPR ensures inventors, industrial designers, musicians, and artists alike that their creative content will be protected and valued. With payments they receive for the use of their work product, they can invest in future innovations. Such payments incentivize creators to make their innovations available on a broader scale, sharing knowledge that enables others to come up with additional novel and advanced solutions. Without IPR protection, it is much less likely that this will happen.
The first day of the seminar, led by the U.S. Department of Justice's Office of Overseas Prosecutorial Assistance and Training, featured plenary sessions, panel discussions, and inter-school debates to raise awareness on ways young visionaries can innovate and improve the current intellectual property infrastructure in Nigeria.
The first issue is that we need to create that awareness for people to even get interested in, ensuring that they can use this IP system for their advantage. Then from the government side and policymakers, we need to have a long-term view of intellectual property because global economy has changed. This is what would drive the economy tomorrow. We have to begin to put in place structures that can move innovation from just having innovation around and move it to something that can translate to real economic value for the country.
If we don't get it right with them, we don't have a future. And in the world that is more and more losing physical boundaries, our youth will be able to express themselves anywhere. If we don't use them, some other country will use them. Some other investors will use them. So it's important that we get it right with the children and the youth.
In line with the theme of the year, a younger demographic which made up a larger percentage of the audience explored different ways young inventors, creators, and entrepreneurs can use their intellectual property rights to generate income, create jobs, tackle local and global challenges, and support community and national development.
What I've learned about today's intellectual property symposium is that IP is going to protect your product or company so it won't be stolen or be forged by other people.
The youth is the future. This is our music business is a youth-driven And it's important to start teaching them and educating them while they are young. The ones that are interested in being on the back end, not necessarily just the artists, the business and the lawyers and the managers, they should understand what they are getting into if this is something that they want to do long term. So that's the reason why I'm here, because again, I'm a big proponent of developing the local infrastructure. We are seeing success internationally, but this global wave that Afrobeats has might not always be there, and we're going to come back home, and we need to make sure home is properly structured and we can all take part in the industry here.
Content creation is for everyone, but the youth seem to indulge in it more, and it's an alternative to the employment they seek. It's not available, so they have to be self-employed. It's the easiest way to be self-employed. Create a concept, say you want to put it out as content, and you do it on so many platforms, and before you know it, people start responding, and the more people that respond, the better your remuneration. So it's the youth that are really mostly involved in content creation, and they are doing a wonderful job, not only in Nigeria, but globally.
I don't think we're doing a lot. Saying that the police is going to go after all the people that are doing pirating and stuff is just nonsense. We have to have better policies in place and stricter rules on how we go about stopping the pirates.
Across the globe and here in Nigeria, young people are stepping up to IP innovation challenges, using their energy and ingenuity, their curiosity and creativity to steer a course towards a better future. And it is the objective of symposiums like this to ensure that these innovative and creative minds are driving a positive change in regards to intellectual property development. Shaitan Atigari, Arise News, Lagos.
All right. Tunde, what do you make of that report?
I think it was an excellent report by Shaitan there, and really important work to have that World IP Day recognized, because, our Nigerian creatives are getting all these plaudits, awards all over the world, but are they getting all the money that should accrue to them? They are not. And recently, I think it was maybe 2-3 weeks ago, the Senate made this move to reenact our copyright law, which I completely support. It needs to be strengthened, so they're looking at increasing the fines and jail time for those who are found to default. But the problem will always be enforcement.
Right. Rafai, what do you think?
All right. We'll... no time, I guess.
Well, it's a great report either way. Good stuff from Shaitan.
Thank you, Roses. Moving on now to more business update. Michael Wilson joins us from London. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Morning. We saw a big fall yesterday. Chinese shares have sort of come back very, very slightly. And Hong Kong's index, the Hang Seng, has jumped almost 2% after dipping about 3% the previous day. But of course, the biggest business news today, unexpectedly, is Elon Musk striking a deal to buy Twitter for $44 billion. And my goodness, has that not been speedy? It was only yesterday that we were wondering about the future. Now we sort of know what it is. It's a shock bid, no question about that. He thinks that Twitter's got tremendous potential, but, and this is a big but, we've been talking about what free speech actually means, and there's a lot of that going on at the moment. Musk is the world's richest man, according to Forbes. Many Republicans actually quite like this, because they felt that Twitter's moderation policies have actually stamped down on free speech. I doubt this very much. I can see alarm bells ringing, quite honestly. Who actually will be on the board as well? The CEO, Parag Agrawal, was only talking last week about wanting to have some time to try and consider what's going on. He succeeded Jack Dorsey. Will Jack Dorsey come back, for example, to Twitter? He's good friends with Musk, as we know. Musk is going to open up the algorithms which decide what it actually appears on Twitter, and will that open sourcing help us to understand what actually goes on there? I suspect this has got a long way to run. I think it's going to be a very, very difficult corporate deal to finesse, quite honestly. But anyway, there we are. That's money talks at the end of the day. As far as the US is concerned, the Nasdaq slightly lower ahead of big tech earnings today, and we're talking about Microsoft, Alphabet and Meta platforms, which are actually going to report this week. I would like to draw your attention, if I may, to two big banks reporting overnight. US UBS and HSBC. Again, we were looking at those banks to try to work out, A, what the credit impairment facility on those has actually been, and it's been quite a lot, and also in terms of wealth and personal investment and how that's actually affected their profits, and also the effect of Ukraine and all the rest of it. HSBC in particular, their profits actually sliding as a result of that. We take notice of HSBC because it's Europe's biggest bank. So Macron, back in power in France, faces an economic juggling act. He's trying to do incredible things to the, and I say they're incredible because I don't really believe them. I don't mean that they're super. I mean that they actually will take a lot of belief, lowering the, increasing the age at which people can actually get their pensions and so on. What's he going to do about the spiking fuel bill? He's taken a leaf out of Marine Le Pen's book, because she actually, as I reported last week, went to country areas of France where farmers were complaining about fuel oil and also about fertilizer. Will there be some sort of fuel relief? Very, very possibly indeed. The EU has not distinguished itself in cutting off Russian oil completely. It's now weighing a cap on the oil price. They think that'll hit the revenues to the Kremlin, or they may force a tariff on oil, which will actually force the Russians to reduce the price of it. Who knows? But anyway, that's what's going on at the moment. As far as UK is concerned in the EU, trade down about a third since Brexit. That's what the figures are saying this morning. The UK Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng is set to announce double government assistance right through for the next couple of years to energy-intensive industries, which have been complaining about high fuel bills. And as far as P&O ferries are concerned, I was reporting yesterday that the unions were very much up in arms against P&O, as you could expect. P&O have come back and said that it's not true that people who are having to swap contracts to have lower pay, it's only newbies who will actually attract that. Oil has risen a little in Asia. A lot of risk aversion about this, but given a slight improvement, only a slight improvement on Chinese equity markets, I'm looking at Brent crude at about 102.50 and WTI at 95.50 as we speak. And gold has culled those who have gone long on it. Actually, the idea that I think this is because the dollar has now reached almost a 2-year high, and I feel as though that's probably talking about falling, why the price has fallen down. Yesterday, we didn't have time for Tundu to talk about supermarkets and so on. It's apposite that we just mentioned them briefly this morning, because a survey has shown amongst 75,000 respondents, which is actually quite big. A survey has shown that cost of groceries up by 6% in April. That's going to add another £270 to shopping bills, but also it means people are changing their habits. Tundu was talking about Aldi and Lidl yesterday. Yes, indeed, people are actually more going to those sort of homegrown own brands rather than going to supermarkets, even though they're dropping their prices. And Aldi and Lidl now, those cut prices are at around 15% of the total market, up from 6% 10 years ago. So shopping habits changing massively. That's the global view.
I mean, and that's a reflection of the cost of living crisis in the UK. In fact, there's another stat that came out recently that said people are practically borrowing money to eat now. They're taking out credit card debts to eat now. But the government in the UK doesn't seem to be able to do anything about it. Let me talk about China first. Shanghai, the lockdown, imminent lockdown, yeah, there's been some opening up recently, but how will that affect, supply chain management in the world today? Because we had those problems during COVID, and it looks like those supply chain problems would impact businesses in Africa and some other parts of the world, because we pretty much leave everything for the Chinese to produce for us, and we rely on them. Secondly, I'd like to talk about Russia. In this game of sanctions to bring Russia down, how has the Russian central bank, held on? Because I understand now that interest rate is going to over 30%. The central bank is struggling, but it's still holding out, and it's 3 months down the line. What will be the nuclear bomb of all sanctions to break the financial system? What will bring about that Lombard Street event in the Russian financial system, if anything like that is possible?
you've answered your own question. It's oil. That's what it is. It's oil and energy. Once the European Union, and in particular Germany, France and Italy, agree on what they're going to do and how they're going to lessen their dependence on it, that will affect the Russian economy. No question about that. I also happen to think that Russia's central bank, the name's gone just for the moment, but she is a very, very clever governor, and she's actually guided the ruble back from where it fell up very, very slightly indeed, not least of which to do with high interest rates. So sovereign debt, as far as Russia's concerned, is still being traded, not necessarily in the main financial markets, because as we reported, that Russia has been shut out of those. But certainly the key to it, I think, is energy and oil and gas, and once the EU decides what it's going to do about that, in other words, put a clamp down on it, then things will continue much as they are. Again, heartening to note that given all the bombastic talk from Kharkov yesterday, as far as Russia's concerned, and a nuclear war being imminent, he also was hoping that people could actually get round a table and discuss how we're going to go on from here. Let's hope that's absolutely true. China, yes, of course, you're absolutely right. Supply chains, all those kind of problems. Isn't it interesting, though, that stocks have come back very, very slightly, even though the financial district in Beijing is suffering almost a complete lockdown? Why is that? As I suggest, I don't know. I mean, I've taken a bit of comment this morning. My own view is maybe it's the least worst option, but it certainly is a mystery. And we haven't even talked, have we, about the property issue, the property sector issues in China. All that seems to have been forgotten under the COVID outbreak. It is not forgotten. It is still
Michael,
there. They have big problems.
Michael, okay, I was going to ask you about Elon Musk. He's now the new king of Twitter, and is assuming the position of an absolute monarch. Private control, total control. What will be the implications of the free speech, less moderation that he's asking for? Twitter already is very controversial as a political platform, even more so in developing countries, in Nigeria, for example. Should we expect a lot of ugliness coming out of this, and where do the regulators fit in, considering the fact that Elon Musk, before now, has had issues with SEC in the US, and he had issues with defamation. And he has over 80 million followers on Twitter. Now that he has absolute private control, what should we expect? Mayhem, uncertainty, chaos. That's one. The second thing has to do with the move by some businesses and brands in the UK calling for extra bank holiday to be made permanent. The bank holiday scheduled for June to celebrate the Queen's Jubilee. They want that to be permanent. They want more holidays. Already in England and Wales, we have about 7 bank holidays. In the European Union, we have about 11. Yes, maybe it will benefit people in the hospitality and retail business, but what will be the implications? What's the meaning of this extra holiday that those brands are asking for? Is it just a case of selfishness, considering the fact that even PricewaterhouseCoopers did a study saying, look, the cost is much higher than had been thought, even if a minority will benefit from it?
I come from a holiday resort in the north of Yorkshire, in the north of England. And the received wisdom there is if you work while other people play, then you make money. And that's what I feel about bank holidays. Yes, certainly it might extend to the public servants and public service and the civil service and the rest of it. But as far as real life is concerned, I don't think it'll make any difference at all. There appears to be a move for people to have another day off. Well, good luck to them. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. I feel as though the real test of this is going to be in France, I think, when Macron decides that he's going to clamp down on these extra public holidays, which, as you quite rightly observe, are a lot of them. As far as Musk is concerned, unfortunately, he is the world's richest man, but it does not put him out of reach of the SEC, as they've already lambasted him. They've already laid a finger on his collar about using Twitter to talk about his own company, which I was saying a long time ago, and I think many people like me are very surprised that the SEC has taken this long. It is a private company, but it's not above regulation. Nothing is above regulation, and we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be very, very painful indeed. The cost of free speech is very, very high in this world, I'm very pleased to say.
Well, his bête noire, Elizabeth Warren, already came out to say his acquisition of Twitter will be dangerous for democracy. Well, we all thought she would say that anyway.
Right, thank you all. For updates on COVID-19 pandemic, Adeso Moro is here with us.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning,
Adeso.
Tundu. And good morning, Dr. Bachi.
Morning.
Morning. Great to be here. Well, globally, there have now been 510 million COVID-19 infections, at least 6.2 million casualties, and across the countries and territories of the world, 11.2 billion vaccine doses have been administered. That's according to the Johns Hopkins University tally. Well, here in Nigeria, the vaccine agency continues to rank states according to performance in vaccinating their residents. The NPHCDA says the top 5 states at the moment are Nasarawa, Jigawa, Kano, and Kaduna states, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. A further breakdown shows that 8 in every 10 eligible persons in Nasarawa and Jigawa states have taken the first dose, while 7 in every 10 are fully vaccinated in those 2 states. Well, Nigeria's target is to vaccinate 50% of eligible population in all states by the 30th of June this year. We keep moving those targets. We have a target to vaccinate 70% of the eligible population by the end of this year. We missed our target last year. Now we have a new target, 50% by 30th of June. We keep our fingers crossed to see if we can make this target this time around. Well, in South Africa, health experts say the country is experiencing a flare-up in COVID-19 cases, but it is too early to declare if this is a 5th wave. Experts in the country previously warned that the 5th wave of the coronavirus could grip the country as early as next month. The country reported over 3,200 infections and 5 COVID-19 related deaths in the last 24 hours. Let's go to the U.S., where officials say several dozen New York City teachers and other school employees have been placed on unpaid leave for submitting fraudulent proof of COVID-19 vaccination. Now, the teachers' union is threatening to sue to get their members back on the payroll. A COVID-19 vaccination mandate took effect for New York City school employees last year and was expanded to include all city employees. This is not the first time we have seen this. However, this is beginning to look ugly, especially with children involved. And finally, this morning, Beijing authorities began mass testing of residents yesterday amid a new outbreak of coronavirus infections. The testing regime has prompted fears of a lockdown, even though a lockdown has not been announced. But, we have currently a lockdown in Shanghai, and authorities have actually had to fence some residential buildings and close down some streets just to keep people inside. Well, only 70 cases have been found in the Chinese capital since the outbreak surfaced on Friday. But people are scared that the authorities may actually declare a Shanghai-style lockdown. Back to you guys.
Well, I was going to say how litigious Americans are, but they do have a point, the teachers' union that's threatening to sue, in that their members were placed on unpaid leave on an allegation. Nothing has been proved against them. So until it's been proved against them, why are they being penalized in this way? So I do understand that. I also understand the urge to clamp down, investigate, punish, but only those who are found to have erred, only those who have committed this kind of fraud, which is actually really shameful. I do think that I don't have that much patience for the vaccine hesitant, but I do admire people who have the courage of their convictions. If you do not want to be vaccinated, you just, stand by that and don't show up to work. Do not be vaccinated. Pretend to be vaccinated and put people at risk. It's like egregious morally as far as I'm concerned. But there needed to have been a proper procedure before placing people on unpaid leave. As for Beijing, I think China is trying to learn from the mistake of Shanghai, where they left it a little late, almost a month. So the infections have started to really run rampant. So I think they're trying to clamp down now. But we all saw those horror stories coming out of Shanghai, and the people of Beijing must be pretty nervous right now.
Well, let's start with the United States. Now, in New York, the Union of the United Federation of Teachers is kicking because they're saying that the principles of collective bargaining have been violated, and that the employees were not, given the opportunity to go through due process, and that the unpaid leave is unfair. So what they have done is to serve a notice of claim to the city, which is preparatory to filing a formal suit. But the more important subject is that fraud with regard to COVID-19, either people presenting fake vaccination cards or, some other, infractions have been a major issue with regard to COVID-19 process management. And in the US, the Department of Justice at the federal level had to take a decision to go after people who have been fraudulent in the process. In New York, the other day, there was a fellow, who was sentenced because he was committing fraud under the welfare provisions for businesses. He registered fake businesses, and he was collecting, support, state support, federal support for employees that do not exist. And there are such other cases, over 100 of such cases, that the Department of Justice in the United States has been pursuing. So fake vaccination card is just another dimension because it is illegal. A lot of people, not just in the US, but elsewhere, also in Africa, have committed fraud, crime, illegalities, on account of COVID-19, because one is an emergency. Two, the protocols were not properly defined because the world needed to deal with that emergency. But I just hope that, we'll witness, maybe in Africa, particularly Nigeria, that same level of vigilance, if it is possible. Because it looks like, if you look deeply enough in Nigeria, there may be issues that may also come up. As for Beijing, Beijing has a population of about 21 million people, capital of China. So far, 70 cases have been reported. But the Chinese state is saying, look, the zero COVID policy should move in immediately. And that's what they've done. Only one district has been locked down. From this morning, Tuesday, 5 outlying districts will also be locked down, and there will be a mass testing. And what has been observed in China generally is that, there has been an exponential rise in cases of the Omicron variant BA2 infection, which is far more transmissible, even if it doesn't cause severe hospitalization and deaths. And under the zero COVID policy, wherever this is found, they try to lock it down to prevent the situation in Shanghai, where there have been about 29,000 cases of infection within the last 24 hours, and total cases of about 138 deaths so far. And you have the same problem in Jilin, in Guangzhou, and all of those places, affecting production, slowing down economic growth, and creating tension in the whole of the, of the region. China being very strategic, not to the region, but also to the international community. So this is not just about Beijing or Shanghai or Guangzhou or Shenzhen or Jilin. It's also about the corresponding impact on how the global economy functions.
All right.
Anyway, thank you.
Okay, so
I think we don't have more time.
Adesso, I've got quick information. Please, people in Lagos, go out there and take your vaccines. I hear vaccine uptake has dropped from about 20,000 daily uptake to 5,000 daily uptake. So please, go out there and take your vaccines. That's all.